Chapter 13. A Brief Philadelphia Interlude. I got home well the 1st of November, Franklin wrote a month after his return voyage from England, and had the happiness to find my little family perfectly well. My house has been full of a succession of friends from morning to night ever since my arrival, congratulating me on my return with the utmost cordiality and affection. My fellow citizens, while I was on the sea, had at the annual election chosen me unanimously, as they had done every year while I was in England, to be the representative in assembly, and would, they say, if I had not disappointed them by coming privately to town before they heard of my landing, have met me with 500 horses. This was the first Christmas season he had spent with his wife and daughter in 6 years, and he was delighted to be home again. Sally, he said, had grown quite a woman, with many amiable accomplishments acquired in my absence. He seldom left his family that winter, except to attend sessions of the Assembly. Soon after the year 1763 opened, the Franklins began building a new 3-story brick house on Market Street, just a few steps from the spot where Deborah first saw the runaway boy from Boston almost 40 years earlier. Construction progressed slowly, however, thanks to Franklin's many public responsibilities. Deborah and Sally were not able to move in until May 1765, several months after he left again for England. Following a perilous 3-month voyage across the Atlantic, William and his wife reached Philadelphia in February. Elizabeth stayed with her mother-in-law to recover, while the elder Franklin accompanied his son to New Jersey for the swearing-in ceremonies. Then the proud father remained a few weeks longer to journey with the new governor through the province, where he had the pleasure of seeing him, William, received everywhere with the utmost respect and even affection of all ranks of people. By April 1763, Franklin was away from his family again on public business. In his role as Deputy Postmaster General, he spent about 6 weeks inspecting post offices in the southern colonies. Shortly after his return, he left again for a 1,780-mile postal inspection tour of New Jersey, New York, and New England. This time he was joined by Sally. As Canada had recently been ceded to Great Britain by the Treaty of Paris, it now became Franklin's duty to extend postal services even farther northward by hiring mail carriers to ride day and night. He suffered 2 falls from his horse during his 5-month journey through the northern provinces, on one occasion dislocating his shoulder in Rhode Island, so he was grateful to have Sally by his side to help nurse him back to health. When he returned to Philadelphia in November, a crisis was brewing. Indian uprisings along the western frontier had inflamed many of the Pennsylvania farmers, and in December, a mob calling themselves the Paxton Boys attacked and massacred a group of friendly Conestoga Indians living peaceably in Lancaster County. In January 1764, Franklin wrote and published a pamphlet denouncing this cruel and barbarous act and calling for justice, hoping thereby to restore reason to the province and turn public favor against the mob. Soon thereafter, he initiated the formation of another volunteer militia to defend Philadelphia against the Paxton Boys, who had vowed to attack a group of peaceful Indians being protected there. Nearly 1,000 inhabitants of Philadelphia had taken up arms by February 3rd. On that day, the rioters reached Germantown, about 8 miles out of the city, and Franklin reported that the proprietary governor did me the honor, in an alarm, to run to my house at midnight with his counselors at his heels for advice, and made it his headquarters for some time. After a few hours, the governor asked Franklin and 3 others to ride out to Germantown to meet the Paxton Boys. Their dangerous mission was successful. The fighting face we put on and the reasonings we used with the insurgents turned them back and restored quiet to the city. Writing to one of his correspondents in England, Franklin summed up the entire episode. Within 24 hours, your old friend was a common soldier, a counselor, a kind of dictator, and an ambassador to the country mob, and on his returning home, nobody again. Although the Assembly was no longer prevented from taxing the proprietary estates in Pennsylvania, friction between them and the governor continued to mount. The deplorable conduct of the current governor, John Penn, the nephew of the proprietor himself, finally brought the issue to a head. His arbitrary vetoes and insulting messages to the Assembly threw him and his government into sudden contempt, wrote Franklin. All regard for him in the Assembly is lost. All hopes of happiness under a proprietary government are at an end. On March 24, 1764, the Assembly adjourned in order to consult with their constituents and learn how much popular support could be expected for a petition requesting King George III to end the proprietary government there and make Pennsylvania a royal colony. At about the same time, Franklin wrote a pamphlet entitled "Cool Thoughts on the Present Situation of Our Public Affairs," urging that the king assume the government of the province. It was published and distributed throughout Philadelphia on April 12th. The legislators met again on May 26th and unanimously elected Franklin to succeed Isaac Norris as Speaker of the Pennsylvania Assembly. His first act as Speaker was to sign the controversial petition to George III. Arguments were heated on both sides of this issue. The opposition was led by a member named John Dickinson, and Franklin was vilely attacked in pamphlets and newspapers for his role in the matter. When he ran for his seat in the Assembly again that summer, the Proprietary Party conducted a vehement campaign against him, printing charges that his son William was illegitimate and introducing other ugly accusations. In September, he wrote to an English friend, "At present I am here as much the butt of party rage and malice expressed in pamphlets and prints, and have as many pelted at my head in proportion as if I had the misfortune of being your prime minister." When the polls closed on October 1st, Franklin had lost the election by 25 votes out of 4,000, but those who held his views still commanded a majority in the Assembly, and on October 26th they resolved to send him back to England to present their petition to the king. After quick preparations, he sailed on November 9th. He was alone once more for the voyage, as Deborah refused to accompany him or to let Sally go either. Little did he know that he would be gone nearly 11 years' time, and that his dear wife would not live to see him come home again. And that's the end of chapter 13.